edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Kemi Fola Adeyemo. Today on the program, anxiety mounts as supplementary governorship elections hold in 4 states. Later on the show, Nigerian refineries lose 132 billion naira in 1 year. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Adekunle Yusuf. Journalist Hangout starts now. In politics, every battle, however minor, is worth the sweat. The supplementary governorship battles in Nigeria are fast becoming a turbulence that can be likened to a situation where big fishes battle in small rivers. 4 incumbent governors in Benue, Kano, Plateau and Sokoto are up against formidable foes for the conclusion of the elections in their states on Saturday. The remaining battles in states like Bauchi, Adamawa and Rivers, where the exercise was suspended, will have to wait in what is turning out to be the longest governorship contest in Nigeria's history. The anxiety mounts over these polls is reverberating beyond the stage. We'll begin the discussion in a moment. Stay with us. Indeed, the anxiety is mounting over these polls. The supplementary polls that is now appears to be reverberating around the rest of the nation. We'll begin our discussion now. We introduce the gentlemen, Babajide and Yusuf. We welcome you both to the show this evening.
Thank you.
I'll begin with you, Babajide. How much of this resonates with you? Let's talk about the situation in Adamawa State now. The court of Bauchi, for example, if you would follow my lead now. Bauchi now, we saw the court sitting on that matter now. It seems to be a debate as usual now between PDP that's crying foul over the fact that the matter, according to them, they say it's an election petition tribunal matter. Yet we see the APC starting this action, bringing in INEC. PDP has now said it will join in the lawsuit. What do you have to say about it? The court will resume next week, but what are your observations so far?
We've consistently demanded for an improvement in our electoral processes. Naturally, if an individual suffers a rush in the head and he grabs the result collated from for a particular local government and he tears it, agents of all the political parties and other stakeholders should have that copy. If that is the case, and INEC guidelines allow such photocopy of such results to be used to complete the collation. You get the point that I'm making. And just as if I'm to use an illustration, if on your way from the ward collation center to the local government collation center, somebody attacked you and destroyed the result collated at the ward level, INEC's guidelines provide for photocopy to be generated from other sources like agents, like other stakeholders in the election, so that that photocopy can then be used to complete the process. Right. If you do that, you effectively put to shame the mad person who decided to tear INEC's results. So if INEC had done that in the case of Bauchi, there would have been no need for them
to declare supplementary and then to now back out and say...
because the process was completed.
And that was exactly what happened.
The process
this picture
was completed.
you painted was what happened.
The process was completed. All you had to do was just get that photocopy. And you know, by the time INEC now said, oh, mistakes were made somewhere, we want to go back and use the photocopy, PDP began to complain. I mean, APC began to complain. That's why we have that case. Although, in my view, I don't really see what Emir Abubakar, the governor of Bauchi State, wants to achieve in the end. Because INEC has not done anything wrong by saying, okay, this we are going to use the photocopy that we generated from that election and then complete the collation and announcement of result. So sensing clearly that he would lose, he now decided that, oh, since you agreed that we should do, since you decided that we should do supplementary election, yeah, it has to be supplementary. But a supplementary election in this case is a bloody waste of money, it's a bloody waste of everyone's time because the process was completed. And there are copies for the result that some mad people went, destroyed. So why do you want everyone to be forced into a fresh rerun? So even INEC has a problem. It does not faithfully adhere to its guidelines at all times. It does not. Because if it had done that, I can tell you that there will have been no need even for supplementary election in Plateau State, because it's a waste of time. In my view, a winner has already emerged in Plateau State. There will have been no need for a supplementary election in Benue State, because in my view, a winner has emerged. Somebody who has 81,000 vote margin
ahead of
the opponent.
Indeed.
And if we are talking about registered voters that they expect to see in the election, 120,000. Not all the registered voters have got the PVC.
PVCs.
Not everyone who has the PVC is prepared to vote, as we saw in Kano.
Okay.
4.6 million people have PVC in Kano, but only 2.3 million came out to vote. This is the way we are. So some of these rerun elections that INEC is organizing all over the place are a bloody waste of time. And because they cancelled an election somewhere. INEC cancelled an election somewhere in Benue, where it simply should, because they attacked them, they attacked INEC staff as they were bringing the result sheet to Makurdi. All they needed to do was follow what their own guidelines says. Get the photocopy of that result that was, except they are telling me now that all the people who had the photocopy were attacked. And in Kano too.
Similar circumstances.
In Kano, Nasarawa has 11 wards. 10 wards have been collated. When they got to Gamma ward, the 11th ward, some people experienced a rush in the head. They decided to go and disrupt the collation. But there was an agent who had that copy. That agent now decided to give it to the police for safekeeping. What did INEC say? INEC said once it got into the hands of policemen, it has become a secondary material. Therefore, they will not use it. Otherwise, there will have been no need. When there was backup. They were saying that it should have given it to an INEC staff. But even in applying the law, there ought to be exceptions.
In view of the circumstances,
yes,
the fastest chance he seems to have was... Let me run that along with Yusuf now. Looking at the case in Adamawa, also a case, the case is now in court, so to speak. A party is saying his name or his logo was omitted. And there seems to also be the argument from INEC saying the laws guiding its conduct of the elections, that's of course the Electoral Act, has said that the courts cannot interfere in its powers to conduct elections. How do you observe the goings on there?
I think the entire blame goes to INEC. In the elections that just concluded, and the inconclusive ones, INEC did a totally shoddy job. And when you are not being sincere, this is what you reap. You are putting confusion into our electoral system. You are bastardizing our electoral, system. What INEC is doing today under this professor is totally different from what we experienced under Professor Jega. It's like somebody who has tasted heaven, paradise, and now is tasting something that is, Believe me, in most of these places, there is no need for any rerun election. I've worked as a presiding officer, in election before. The moment you write results, several people will have a copy. That is why it is mandated that every party agent must sign that result to be authentic. So whether your party is winning or it's not winning, whatever is the case, you must sign it. And by the time you do it, it is the same thing, but there are several layers, so it generates several copies. If the man in charge of the original copy drops dead, that does not mean you should come and tell people to come and vote again. No, there are many other people who have the same story. The Kano, the one he spoke about in Adamawa State.
In Bauchi.
In Bauchi. The result is known.
Yes.
The result is known. A winner has emerged. What INEC is doing is just hiding behind one finger. You are doing a shoddy job. What do? The leadership of INEC today should bury their head in shame for messing up our electoral system, for turning us to a laughing stock in the Committee of Nations. You held elections in 29 states for governorship, governorship elections in 29 states. And you ran into crisis in how many? Believe me, it's unbelievable. In 2015, we had elections. Even in the presidential election, the loser so much believed in the entire thing that he congratulated the winner and he didn't go to court. In this one, governorship election, Nigeria is still crying several weeks after. Now, we don't know what will happen. By the time we approach May 29, you won't be surprised. We will not have governor in some states. Because our politicians, they will capitalize on the shoddiness of INEC to be able to use either the court, the security agencies, the thugs, the hoodlums, to perpetuate their evil, things, politicians. So at the end of the day, where do we go from here?
Indeed.
INEC should stop playing like it is the judiciary, it is everything. When you have elections, don't bother about who wins. Don't bother about who loses. The clear result, whoever is not happy, our laws have made provision, let him or her go to court. Okay, look at Adamawa State now. There's a party that has gone to court now that INEC excluded its own logo. In our law, that is a fundamental error. Believe me, it can lead to, even if a winner has been announced, it can lead the court, to order for a total,
indeed,
new election.
In the words of the judge,
how will an INEC that has several years to prepare for election omit the logo of one of the, parties in contention? What kind of INEC is that?
Let's see what happens, because
next week
I heard that the candidates did not even have a deputy, and that is INEC's argument that it was not even that he cannot even lay claim to being a candidate because he didn't submit the name of a deputy. So maybe that is true. I don't know. Maybe that will convince the judge. We don't know yet.
Well, the court will
INEC has even said, of course, it's ready to, with its own formidable team, in its own word now, to see this case through. But Babajide, there's also an issue with Rivers. Now INEC has made a decision finally on Rivers, slating 13th of April for supplementary polls collation will begin on the 2nd of April, will resume on the 2nd of April. But then there still remains the concern on the security situation there, even as now activities can now, you know, align itself now in line with this date that INEC has fixed. Do you see an end now to the impasse?
Well, I see an end. If the president will talk to the Chief of Army Staff and the Inspector General of Police, because their men are being misused. Politicians, irresponsible politicians, are misusing the army, are taking the army to collation centers to disrupt collation.
Yes.
There's evidence of that. When you talk, Nigerians will say, oh, nobody can do election in rivers unless we bring soldiers. Let Nigerians think. We are not saying that, that we don't need soldiers in rivers. We know that they are a special breed when it comes to violence. But we are saying that soldiers should not get involved with disrupting collation. And INEC's guidelines and the law is clear that it is INEC that deploys the military. That means it is INEC that would determine where it needs soldiers. So if you are not needed in collation centers and nobody told you to go there, you can't as soldiers now bring out your snout and go to a collation center. No, you can't be doing that. To the point that you wanted to do, you didn't know that international observers, they were all there and they saw you with those women struggling and no, you will not enter this place. No, you will not come and snatch our ballots. You can imagine the shame that I feel as a Nigerian. Because I read about countries who do elections. Some of those frontline nations, Nigeria helped to build their countries. Today, they do elections without houses.
No rank.
Soldiers don't carry guns harassing people on election day. So, because we said secure rivers, because we have people who are negatively inclined, bloodsuckers who call themselves politicians, because we say go and secure the place, is it a license for soldiers to go and disrupt collation? The answer is no. Soldiers have no reason to work with politicians, including an overrated but failed politician in Akwa Ibom, who used soldiers to go and arrest INEC staff. So it is about how they are used. Let there be a meeting. And the president must put his foot down that, yes, as long as I'm the commander-in-chief, the armed forces that gave me fame and name will not be bastardized. If President Buhari folds his arms and is watching some aberrant politicians using soldiers to disrupt elections, using soldiers to rig elections, then something is wrong. That is what I have to say about rivers. I know the problems that we have with them. But at least in 2015, the problem was better managed. It was investigated at some point when Amechi and Co said they would not vote unless they see from EC8. In the end, Jega sent a team, they investigated the place, and it allowed the result to stand. But what do we have? Up till now, weeks after we had elections, we cannot say, oh, this is the outcome of the election. It's unacceptable. INEC has to find a way to conduct these elections without rancor. And the army should not blackmail INEC by giving the impression that, look, oh, since you complain about us, therefore, in future elections, we may not, it's your duty to protect people. It's your duty to protect Nigerians. Indeed. You can't blackmail anyone. Yes, soldiers were killed in rivers. Soldiers were ambushed. A young captain getting set to wed was killed. We know that. And we know that some policemen even attack soldiers. We know that. It's wrong. We condemn it. But how about the bad eggs in the army who will now go and be working for politicians and be scaling over walls to go and destroy coalition? Abba, for goodness sake.
All right.
That should not be happening.
All right, Adekunle, on the other side of the argument, because we also know that the PPRO, that's Frank Mba, has already, according to him, a committee has been set up now to investigate this security concerns. There's also been the argument that politicians, desperate politicians, as has been stated and argued on this table, also allegedly make use of thugs who then wear army uniforms or uniforms of security operatives. How does that wash now in the light of all the security concerns, now that we have another bite at the apple, so to speak, on Saturday again?
If you look at what happened in Rivers State, thuggery is not new to Nigerian politics. We all know. On this program and several others, we have praised the military. Their involvement in our electoral system, they have displayed impartiality, they have neutrality, they've done professionally. But in this year's election, I'm ashamed of the Nigerian military. What they did in Rivers, if everything is documented, don't let anybody deceive you that it's the hoodlums that were wearing army uniform.
We know these soldiers.
I beg. I don't want to be naming, names. Some of the people we are talking about are serving, government officials, going about in large number of, soldiers. It's there. You can see it.
And the rule says you are not entitled to.
And what they were doing openly.
Right.
With what I saw, I said, oh, we have even become a banana republic. What happened in Rivers is no longer a rape on democracy, gunpoint democracy. It was, what I saw, I didn't even believe it could happen.
It's
because I thought we would be improving with what we got in 2015. We will be moving. The way we are depreciating in terms of electoral sanctity and integrity of our, results, and it's so sad. The president needs to do something in this. He has won his own election. The few ones that are available, that are inconclusive, the president should just intervene. Call all these security agents chiefs. Call them to order. Nigeria is bigger than anybody. Whoever wins, don't care.
Absolutely.
You must do elections that are transparently, clean. You must do elections free and fair. Now, in many of these places where they want to do, rerun elections, go and see the way money is flying. In an economy where majority of Nigerians are poor and hungry, go and see how politicians who have abandoned many of... If you see what is happening today, you see that if you go about this inconclusive election, there is no need for elections again in Nigeria.
Right. And then, so Benue, Kano, Plateau, and Sokoto will have, should have elections concluded come Saturday. Of course, that is the hope. Political activities should end tonight, leaving tomorrow now for INEC to do the needful. That's the expectation of everyone. But what would be your own opinion now that it was established when we started the program that the anxiety mountain over these polls on Saturday seemed to be extending beyond the 4 states?
Yeah, because it's been alleged that some governors who are close to some of the contestants are coming into states where these elections will take place and doing their best to influence the outcome.
Kano for one, indeed.
Well, anyone can help a friend, but you must not run foul of our law. You must not attempt to rig for a friend. Assist your friend the best way in terms of strategy and all that, but you don't have to rig for a friend. You don't have to go around bribing people, because that's what I called weaponizing poverty. When politicians, the same politicians who have made life unbearable for people, who have impoverished our people, are taking money to them at polling centers. That's weaponizing poverty. So we don't want to see that. Today I was happy that they put someone on trial for distributing money in Kwara. I would like to know the person who actually gave that boy money.
Indeed.
Because it has to be a big politician. Maybe it's just one of his foot soldiers. Where is the sponsor? Where is the person who gave him money? In Sokoto, the tension is so high because of the slim margin of Tambuwa's win. And they've been praying, Tambuwa supporters, since last week. They've been gathering and praying that Tambuwa should win. So there's tension in the land, no doubt about it. Like Tabata, the Nasara, the Matawale. Like Tabata, the Nasara, the Matawale. Give Tambuwa victory. Ensure victory for Tambuwa. That's what they're praying. And the prayers are replicated across the local government in the state. You see large crowds of people praying.
What about
so that's to tell you the level of anxiety that is building. This afternoon, the Kwankwasia people issued, wrote what they called an open letter to President Buhari that in Kano, that Ganduje wants to win by all means, and that he should try to call the police and the army to order that they should be transparent, INEC should be transparent, and they are bribing people, they are giving people money, they are buying PVCs.
PVCs.
The thing is, when it comes to all these tactics, undesirable tactics, all the parties are guilty. And it's just not right. The Kwankwasia people, yes, I don't know whether it is true that Ganduje is going to that length, but I know that it's natural for someone who is governor of Kano to want to do whatever it takes to ensure that he doesn't lose. But what we want to see is for the process to be transparent. Ganduje has the right to do his best to win, but he must do that within the ambit of our law, of our electoral laws. And the Kwankwasia people too must also conduct themselves within the ambit of our law.
In fact, I'm not sure if that what I want to say now is part of the Kwakwasia's open letter now to the president, but he's quoted as saying, in response to your argument, Babajide, that, okay, because friends, quote and unquote, are coming in to give support to these governors in this state, in Kano, for example, now he's saying that whoever does that will be at the mercy of the Kano youth. I mean, is that necessary? And does it say, does it also stress the volatility of how crucial these elections are in Kano and elsewhere? We'll talk about it when we return, especially another story where we have Nigerian refineries losing 132 billion naira in 1 year. Stay with us for that and more. You're watching Journalists Hangout now. Over now to Adekunle. What's your own end now of the argument about the volatility of this elections in these 4 states and its likely impact on the rest of the nation?
I would be very glad if the president can do something about it, because
I saw you reacting earlier.
Why will some governors who don't have inconclusive elections go to states where you have through phone call, through whatever you can advise your friend, okay. But please, going there with loads and trailer and million vans of cash, you are further desecrating our electoral system. That we don't want. Let the result reflect the wishes of the people. I want the president to ensure this happens. You shouldn't bother about who wins, as long as that is the person the people want. In this election, with what INEC has done in this election, people should be made to face the consequences of what they do and what they refuse to do. Go and check from one state to another. Many of the people, even in INEC, should face the full of our law. Because why did you create crisis? When you declare elections inconclusive, when there's no reason to do that, you are creating a fertile, ground for violence, for crisis, for rigging, for, electoral, malpractices that we don't want to see again.
There's also an element of uncollected PVCs in Plateau State. We've seen Mr. Pai having to respond to allegations that perhaps a particular party could have used uncollected PVCs, and also in Kano and elsewhere.
That is why we are blaming INEC, because with better performance, we wouldn't be discussing all this. If anything happens, as far as I'm concerned, if people die in these supplementary elections, I will believe INEC caused it. If anything untoward happens, I believe INEC caused it, because you take the states one by one, many of them, you don't need it. Then if you go to Rivers, what happened in Rivers is deliberately contrived by politicians. Then that's why we need Mr. President. He's in charge of Nigeria. Nobody is bigger than Nigeria. Nobody. You should do it in a way that is everybody transparent, clean. That's the best way to go.
Well, the challenge has now cannot be, or it will be safe to say now that the challenge on INEC at this point in time to prove its mettle is stronger now more than ever, as the countdown to Saturday, of course, continues and reaches its peak. But that said, we'll continue to monitor the developments in these states and elsewhere. But then let's talk about another development in the country at the moment. Sometimes the goose that lays the golden egg can transform into the sucker that destroys it. Over the years, Nigerian refineries have turned from profit-making ventures to deficit recording outfits. According to statistics released by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, the NNPC, the refineries posted a loss of 132 billion naira in the year 2018, and it's a 39% rise compared to the figure in 2017. The refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri and Kaduna were idle for most of the year under review. For how long will this continue when you look at this rise in loss that the NNPC continues to suffer from its refineries? Babajide, how concerned are you on this matter?
Well, I'm really concerned because remember when I went to Kaduna to do my youth service, I saw this gas flaring from the Kaduna refinery. You will know that the refinery is working. And I used to tell people, this light, this fire, won't it ever go off? No matter how heavy the rain, you'll see that fire burning. And that's the sign that Kaduna refinery is working. That same Kaduna refinery now has not worked for about 3 years. And it's the same story with other refineries, including Warri refinery and Port Harcourt 1 and 2. Because we have 2 in Port Harcourt. It's unfortunate that we have this situation, and it is caused largely by corruption. Because when we call for turnaround maintenance, we receive money for turnaround maintenance. The maintenance is never diligently done. The truth also is that even some of the companies that built Nigerian refineries, some of them have gone under, they can't be reached. So invariably, we go and engage portmanteau contractors to come and do the turnaround maintenance. When they do it and they don't do it well, we still resort to the use of Nigerian engineers as third party to get involved. In the end, we don't achieve what really we should achieve in terms of turnaround maintenance. The refineries are old. If you must do a thorough overhaul of those refineries, it will amount to even building what you need, about the sort of money that you need. This is what I'm talking about for Kaduna. You know, you need...
show you that serious work.
Yes, you know that is active. You need about the same amount that you need to build a new refinery. Do we have the funds now? No. Are we prepared to bring in foreign investor to come and take over these refineries? That is a suggestion that people have made in the past. But how do you even collateralize this if that is an option? How many investors would like to come and maybe buy these moribund refineries. Look at Kaduna refinery, for example. From the beginning, we've had issues with that refinery because our own brand of oil, the Bonnet Light, the machines in Kaduna refinery cannot work on Bonnet Light unless you blend the crude. So when we bring crude from Warri, they will have to blend it before it can be fed into the Kaduna refinery. So we've had years and years of waste, simply wasting money. The corruption, until we address the corruption in the oil sector, honestly, we can't get anywhere. When El-Rufai suggested some time ago that they should set up, that they should scrap NNPC and then start a new oil company, I just laughed. Because is it not Nigerians that you are going to employ in the new oil company? Instead of him to suggest to us what the Brazilians did with Petrobras. Because Petrobras is now a public-private company. And Petrobras is doing big business, even in foreign countries. They are building refineries. They are leaving their own country to build refineries elsewhere.
You see it on the stock exchange?
Yes. No, in fact, it set a record in terms of the response to the IPO. It set a world record. Why don't we try that? Why don't we try that and see whether that will work? I mean, to have a kind of public-private this thing. You have refineries that are not working, and the kind of salaries that we pay to refinery staff. In fact, it's easier imagined. Just simply doing nothing.
Absolutely. Adekunle, talk to me. Let's have your reactions now. Another way of looking at it in some quarters is 132 billion naira lost from our refineries, of course. Does it mean, is it corruption now, getting the upper hand now, or is it solely at the quarters of, maintenance issues now, the moribund state of these refineries? How do you see it?
It is everything. It is corruption. It is incompetence. It is lack of patriotism. It is people who don't care. No, it was Ireland. If you monitor it from last year, it was over 500 billion at a point last year. So it was crashing. So what is announced today is just a percentage of where they started from last year. From February to November last year, the refinery in Kaduna didn't refine one single drop. Nothing. And you imagine the number of workers. You pay them. You imagine the overhead. You imagine everything. Last year alone, just last year, the government of President Muhammadu Buhari spent 2.9 trillion to import fuel, refined fuel. So Nigeria is about what is happening. Everything is not working. I think one of the candidates in the last election said it you will sell NNPC, and people started mocking him. Maybe he didn't, present. He didn't present his argument very well. But actually, that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Take it off the hands of the federal government.
You need it. When you're talking about NNPC refineries, what of NNPC? It's the ATM of government. How much of transparency do you have?
Nil.
If we can spend a whole day discussing, NNPC. The corruption. Now, I'm not saying even in the past. I'm saying now. It is even worse than in the past. What we have now.
Under President Buhari's watch.
The president doesn't.
There's no way he can know.
Doesn't know a lot of things. Let me tell you.
Illegal bank accounts and all that.
If you see what is happening in NNPC.
There's no transparency.
Total lack of transparency. What happens in NNPC today, you won't believe it. So when somebody said, oh, I will sell it, they say, oh, he wants to sell it to his friends. Fine. You may have a good argument, a good point, a good idea, and present it in a very, very shoddy and bad way. And that idea will become bad. Nigeria, unless we evolve to a level that NNPC is no longer, tied to any ruling party or any government, is purely run as a business.
As a business, just like Petrobras.
Get it listed, stock exchange, everything. Even go sweepers, those who sweep the floor
Also
in NNPC.
Also get.
They are
also
far
get
richer
to-
than many of these big. You ask, what is in NNPC?
Interesting and
The truth is,
scary.
even the people we have a regulator that doesn't even do his work well. Foreigners come here for oil prospecting and all that. They lift crude in our country. We don't know how much.
You have never known.
We don't know how much we produce. It is what those because we've chosen to do it the manual way. It is what they tell us. Oh, we lifted also tons of this and that we agree.
That's the records we have.
If you now go and see staff of DPR, of NNPC, a lot of them are billionaires. Look, a friend of mine we were discussing, he said, Jide, do you have an idea of how heaven and hell look like? I said, I hear stories about that, that God is so strict that to enter heaven will not be easy. He now told me, he said, there's not one person in that sector who will make heaven. He said, there's not one person. Because if this thing is sold at 20 naira, our folks at NNPC would tell you it is 20 naira, but we want to sell it to you at 25. That's how corruption spreads. That's how you move ahead and also exploit someone else. That's how it moves ahead. And it's like they believe that everyone has a price. I believe that everyone has a price, whether you're a pressman or everyone. It's just the corruption is stupendous. Look at the money that they found in one ramshackle corner of Kaduna. Dollars kept there by a former NNPC GMD.
Yakubu.
Where people are suffering. So this is the kind of oil sector that we have. Budget said that in terms of NNPC living up to its mandate to remit money to the Federation account, that NNPC actually remits, I think, just about 23% or so.
Of what it,
yes.
what it
And
accrues.
Not up to
also
30%.
That has also been an argument as well.
So
failure to remit.
what happens to the
The
no?
remittance.
I remember that even Kemi
That's
Adeosun fought them. In fact, Kemi said
That was the
when they
genesis.
had that issue with governors, and governors were saying no, we are not going to take this money, and they had that impasse that lasted weeks. Kemi Adeosun came out publicly to say
these
the
documents.
president, at this point, that the president must get involved, that NNPC is not remitting what it should be remitting. So NNPC has been a gargantuan edifice of corruption. It's always been like that. You know, I once said it that even if President Buhari keeps putting guns to people's heads, those who will still steal.
Of course.
This is the way we are. This is the way we are. We bring out money for turnaround maintenance. We don't spend it. And if you leave your vehicle uncatered for, it will continue to depreciate. That's the problem with our refineries. I remember about 3 years ago reading one story that the Kaduna refinery, in a whole year, Kaduna refinery refined 50 million liters. If we believe NNPC's claim that we now consume 50 million liters a day, because that's their claim. If we believe that claim, which will suggest that we don't have so many cars in Nigeria, more people are buying cars. If we believe that claim that we consume 50 million liters a day, then it means that Kaduna refinery in a whole year produced what was enough to feed Nigeria for just one day. That is how bad things have degenerated in the oil sector.
Interesting. Yusuf, then on the other side, like you have said, the seed has been sown, though, even though the argument that I would, sell off NNPC, get it into private hands, the seed has been sown. However, the arguments have sort of been resurrected now. But what would it mean for Nigerians? Because those who were loudly against it then, during the campaign season, said, what would it mean? How much then would petrol be sold? How much will we get? Won't we see high cost of buying fuel now? How do you explain that?
Remember when there was price hike of petrol? Some of the brilliant minds in this government, made us to believe that forces of demand and supply would do magic in our lives.
And it will eventually
and that in less than 2 years, the kind of economic miracle that will happen in the petrol sector, that it will be like pure water. Some people bought, the cheap lies. What has happened today? Even when the prices of crude oil at the international level plummeted, did anything change in Nigeria? Did anything change? If anybody wants to prove that some people are just being unnecessarily critical of, NNPC or anything, let an international audit firm go and audit.
If they
you will see the kind of corruption you have never seen.
If they release and if the report is made public, Nigerians will take to the streets and be clubbing
everybody that has something to do with, governance in Nigeria. That what? Unless...
When was the last time they were even audited?
Audit what? No, the people that are even there now, so they, you can ask questions. Oh, look at the sessions they usually have with the senator and the House of Reps. Whenever they want to, ask questions, they don't want anyone to probe into that affair. Believe me, why the secrecy? If NNPC is under a meeting to federal coffers, everybody is a loser, because this is the bulk of that money that is distributed at the end of the month between the federal government, the states, and the local governments. So when you remit 20-something%, what happens to the 70-something%? We don't know.
You don't ask questions.
And you must not ask questions. We don't know. In the last administration, when the former petroleum minister, a lot was alleged to have gone into our private, accounts and all that. You ask, in what kind of system allows this? That are Nigerians morons, so that billions and trillions will just develop wings and disappear from our system, and nothing will still happen. And 4 years down the line, we are yet to make the journey to face the full wrath of our loss. Whether the claims are true or not, we don't know for now. Now, in this one, everybody keeps quiet now. It's like nobody should say anything. Nobody wants to talk.
But then that is also, this is the time now to talk about what needs to be done, what critical decisions the president needs to make now. We've talked about the urgent rehabilitation need now to rehabilitate these refineries. Of course, Pengasantu has also been talking like that. What system is sustained with this kind of regime, of recklessness, so to speak? What needs to be done, Babajide?
The problem with us is that we try to politicize everything. Even when you are saying the truth, the person who finds that truth unpalatable will start saying all kinds of rubbish. Obasanjo tried to sell Port Harcourt Refinery 1, I think, to Ando at that time. I thought we should have tried to see what Oando would do with that that refinery. Maybe that will serve as a kind of template for us. But Yaradua came just the same way that he stopped all the IPPs, the independent power projects. He stopped everything. He cancelled that transaction. And what have we gained? We spend money every year on refineries that have become useless to us, that do not deliver income of any sort. Yet the refinery staff are arguably the best paid in the country.
In the world, sir.
Best paid for doing nothing. I spoke to one of the engineers today, and he confirmed that, look, Kaduna, we have not worked for 3 years. So what are they doing there? So let's not get emotional about these things. Let's look at how things are done in other lands. That's why I gave the example of Petrobras. You see, Petrobras is an example of a well-run oil corporation. And nothing says we can't get there. Today, if we turn NNPC to a public-private concern, even foreigners will come and invest, because foreigners invested in Petrobras and made it a sturdy company, a solid oil company that it is today. Not simply government throwing money into what the Yorubas call kolo, just throwing money there, nothing comes out of it. And every year we do is a routine. I had the Minister of State saying that the utmost turnaround that this government wants to do about refineries will happen in 2020. I'm used to Kachiku, you know, sweet-talking me, sweet-talking his compatriots.
So you're not impressed?
Honestly, just the same way he used to tell us that, look, we will do this, and you will not see what is done.
All right.
I'm not overly confident that those refineries that we can do anything about them. And those were refineries that we even inflated the cost of constructing them from the beginning.
Our time is fast spent. We can sit and discuss all this. I really must add now, brilliant submissions from you both, Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Adekunle Yusuf. We appreciate your submissions here on the table today. That's our 7 for you on Journalist Hangout today. Another episode, of course, will hold tomorrow. And you can watch Journalist Hangout on all our other platforms showing on your screen and on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Send us your feedback at journalisthangout@tvcnews.tv. Thank you so much for watching. I am Kemi Foladiemo. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.